We'll be live on YouTube. Fantastic. All right, my friends and gems, we're getting started here right now. We are officially live on YouTube as well. And I want to thank you for being here, right now, at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. We're going to get started. And I want to thank Penny and Carol and whoever the 73737 number is there. I might need to put my glasses on to see those tiny numbers. Yeah, 737, number ending in 3277. Thanks for joining us here today. So let's get started and let me share with you. I wanted to share with you, we get the question all the time. Of course, people always want to ask about their particular conditions and so forth, and we make no medical claims. But let me go ahead and we'll get into our disclaimers, and then we will go ahead and I will share with you some interesting tidbits and facts of information. So these are phototherapy patches, also known as photobiomodulation patches or cell activation patches. And we are going to be talking about how to activate your pluripotent cells. And we are going to talk also about the Fantastic Five. We have 11 patches, but we are going to focus on what I like to affectionately call the Fantastic Five, because those 5 patches, in fact, take care of the 5. Well, it takes care of the primary systems of the body, which I think is so essential and important for every human being, whether you're already happy and healthy or whether you have a challenge or you just want to reverse age. You want to not just anti-age, but reverse age. This is a regenerative medicine patch, and it actually regenerates the body. And at first, it'll anti-age you, but then it'll reverse age you over time. Let me share my cute little fella that's climbing up your DNA ladder here. And so we are going to talk about the mother cell activation patch, followed by the daughter cell activation patch, and then glutathione, carnosine, and then eon. That is what I call the Fantastic Five, because it is fantastic, the results that you in fact get when you take care of the primary systems of the body. Okay, so let's go on with our disclaimer. So the patches are not intended to treat, prevent, or cure any disease. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to put my mic a little closer. We do not heal, cure, treat, or diagnose, nor do we offer any protocols. The suggestions do not replace the diagnosis and treatment by a qualified licensed healthcare professional. We strongly recommend you consult with your doctor concerning your specific health challenge and treatment needed. I am not your doctor. I am not an MD that writes prescriptions. And there are no medical claims that are being made with the suggestions here. The thing to be aware of, there's a lot of things that we were able to say before that just recently, in the last not even quite 90 days, we were made aware that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has taken the position that all claims surrounding stem cells and healing, even those from natural products like these, will be regarded as drug claims. That's their new ruling, or their new position. I should say it's their new position. And the FDA also asserts that claiming that the use of light to elevate peptides such as GHKCU is inappropriate for a general wellness product. These are general wellness products. So as a result, we can't say that, although we have 90 clinical studies to actually show that. And you will find on my website, you will actually find on my YouTube channel, you will see that I have gone over not just over the studies that talk about the Fantastic Five, 39, 49, glutathione, carnosine, and eon, but I also go over several of the other studies that include Ice Wave, Energy Enhancer, etc. At some point, I will eventually get through all 90. I've read all 90 studies, but it's a matter of eventually I will get to the point where I have reviews of all 90 studies on my YouTube channel. That's forward coming here as we approach 2024. All right. So the thing to know is I'm going to give you a little history that's independent of the patches themselves, but serve as a background, if you will. So the thing to know is that back in 1973, Dr. Lauren Picard discovered GHKCU copper peptide activated a third of previously dormant stem cells. That was like over 50 years ago. So exciting. And so by activating a third of previously dormant stem cells, turning genes to a younger, healthier state, what that did was when you have 23,688 genes. 1/3 is 4,192. Let's just call it 4,200, right? 4,200. Every time you would use GHKCU copper peptide, it activated 4,200 stem cells. That's 33% of your previously dormant stem cells are now, it's like turning on a light switch. So if you ponder, if you have a question about what are stem cells, because a lot of people have no idea what stem cells are. Now, make no mistakes. This is not stem cell technology, or stem cell research is not something new. If you look at 1973 is when Dr. Lauren Picard discovered this about GHKCU. If you go back to the early 60s, Dr. Bruce Lipton, the father of modern epigenetics, who taught medical school throughout the 60s, the 70s, I think all the way up until the 80s. He's the father of modern epigenetics. He was teaching medical school at the time, but in the early 60s, he already was doing stem cell research. Imagine that. He was already doing stem cell research in the early 60s. That's a long time ago. And now fast forward to here we are in 2023 as of today, as of this recording. And so now we are talking about these patches that activate pluripotent cells. And so let's get back to what are stem cells, since we're talking here about Lauren Picard's research, how GHKCU copper peptide activates 1/3 of your previously dormant stem cells. So the thing to know is, like, what are stem cells? Well, they're pluripotent cells. That's a descriptor of what a stem cell is. What is pluripotent? Pluripotent means plural. Pluri comes from the word plural, as opposed to singular, and potent, potential. So pluripotent simply means many potentials. If you look at each and individual of the 23,688 stem cells and genes that you have at conception, each one of those has 100% of the programming responsible for forming you from conception until you take your last breath and you pass away. So each one of them has all the programming to create cardiac cells, heart cells, enterocytes, that's digestive cells, intestinal lining cells, stomach cells, fat cells, red blood cells, neurons, any kind of cell that you need. 100% of that information is in each and every one of those stem cells. They're smart cells, packed with information. And at conception, your mother's ovum united with your father's sperm. And at conception, you now have 23,688 genes and stem cells that now you have with that complete information, because your mother's ovum by itself couldn't do it. Your father's sperm by itself couldn't do it. But at conception, now you have complete information. And now at conception, immediately, that process of generating everything that you need to form you into a little embryo begins. And it continues on all the way till week 36 to 40, about 9 months of gestation, at which point then you are formed into a fetus. And then shortly thereafter, you turn into a newborn baby. And the thing to note is that if you fast forward the video, if you will, of your life that started with conception and is going fast forward, let's say you get to the age of 30. When you get to 30 years of age, half, they don't disappear, they're not damaged, they're not destroyed, they simply go dormant. They go to sleep. And if you fast forward the video of your life and you get to age 60, now of the almost 24,000 stem cells that you had from conception, now you only have 10% left that is responsible for everything in you that used to be the responsibility of 100% of your stem cells, but now it's on the shoulders of just 10% of your stem cells. So now you have 60-year-old stem cells that are there trucking along, still trying to do the remodeling job that you did the job of 100 workers. Now only 10 of them are left, right? And the thing to note is, like, I want you to think about your human body, because your human body is just like a house. It's a temporary housing unit for the energy, the personality, the being that your parents named you, whatever it is that you're named, right? And if you look at the inside of the body, we have regular cells, but we also have these pluripotent cells called stem cells, right? And those are like printer ink cartridges in your printer. When you go to make copies, you have colored and black ink. And when you have 100% of the ink, you make copies and you can't tell the difference between the original and a copy. It really is indistinguishable. And when you are now having consumed and used up 70% of the ink, and you have 30%, 20%, or just 10% left, now you have a copy as a faded version of the original, because you don't have the same amount of ink, obviously, working in your favor. Same thing is true with your stem cells. When you have only 20%, 30%, 20%, 10% left, those copies are not as crisp and as clean and as exact as when you had more stem cells available, right? Because you basically have some incomplete information. So that brings us to the question to how do these little patches work? You'll see that I'm wearing some on my wrists right here. You'll also see I've got energy enhancer on, tan patch on left, white on right, and then I've got Eon up here. Here's this little cell activation patch. You'll see the white crystal lattice there in the middle. And how do these patches work? Well, they work with the infrared light inside of your body. We all have about 98 point, if you take temperature and you have about 98.6, 98.7% Fahrenheit, right? Some of us run a little cooler, some of us a little hotter, but basically we all are infrared light. And that is the measurement of the light that's actually inside of our body, the infrared light. Where does that come from? From electrons. Great question. It comes from electrons inside our cells, inside of those molecules. In our blood, we have electrolytes, which are just more electrical packets of information, right? Where did those electrolytes come from? Well, they come from the form of spinach, bananas, oranges, tomatoes, asparagus is synthetic. We're talking about real food that comes from growing out of the ground, which is why it's so important to eat whole foods and not plastic wrapped processed foods that have synthetics and sugars and all sorts of other things that your body can't pull the electrons. It'll fill your stomach, but you've got empty calories coming in and you don't have the nutrients that you need. And you're introducing a lot of toxins into your body, right? So now you have this light barcode in the form of food. You chew it up, break it down into your, with the salivary gland, and your saliva breaks it down so that it prepares it for you to receive it into your stomach, at which point your stomach can then pull out the electrolytes and the electrons and send that throughout the body, because the electrolytes go through your bloodstream and oxygen to your heart as well as to your brain. And so the process begins of that continual light activation that started from conception and used to be fueled on through the water that you drink and the food that you eat. Okay. And so the patches are, if you look at that, each patch has a white circle, all 11 of them. If you look at the backing, you will see, of course, it's labeled with the name of the patch quite naturally. But once you take the backing off, every single one of them looks identical, as you can see here. They're all white circles with the adhesive right around it. And the thing to note is that crystal lattice is made of organic crystals, very much like diamond crystals. If I were to take a diamond crystal and I were to take a flashlight and I were to flash that light on the diamond crystal, you would notice that as the light reflects onto that diamond crystal, it's bouncing back to our eyes, and we're seeing and witnessing that reflection back of this light source from the flashlight to the diamond comes back to our eyes, and we're able to witness all the different colors of the prism bouncing back to us. So we're using this same technology, this same mechanism is used inside of this patch. These crystals here, they're tiny little nano crystals, nanotechnology, because they're very, very tiny. And there's organic sugar crystals, organic salt crystals, organic hydrogen, oxygen, water crystals, as well as a proprietary blend of organic amino acids. And those crystals are all arranged in a very specific lattice work in a geometrical pattern. And they're all set to a very specific frequency so that when this patch, those crystals make contact with your skin, immediately 1/3 of your previously dormant pluripotent cells are now turned back on. This is the mechanism of action that's taking place with these crystals. Okay. Now, again, the FDA doesn't want us saying that through photobiomodulation and the use of these patches that this is activating GHK2 copper peptide. So I'm no longer telling you that, but I am telling you that with your own body's infrared light, as it bounces off this, it starts the process of this domino effect, which all sorts of things begin to be activated, including your pluripotent cells. Okay. Now, while phototherapy has in fact been defined as the use of ultraviolet light for its healing effects, these LifeWave patches have been specifically developed to reflect light in the infrared and visible light bands back onto the skin where the patch has been placed, just like in my arm, my wrist here. So supported by normal electrodermal skin conductance, the human body actually gives off a number of materials biochemically. Biochemically simply means biologically, chemically, right? Including particulate release, which is just tiny little particles that are released as a reaction, gas emission, ultraviolet, infrared, near-infrared, and visible spectrum light. This then stimulates the area of the skin, producing improved physiological effects. Variations on phototherapy have been used for at least 100 years or more, and in that time, there's been very little evidence of any negative side effects. So this suggests that this is a relatively untapped option for healing with relatively few risks. So I want you to notice that these are non-transdermal patches, unlike a testosterone patch, unlike a nicotine patch, which is to help people to, from smoke cessation. They're dermal patches where something is being put into the skin, it's being absorbed through the skin into the body. This is non-transdermal, which means nothing transfers into the dermis being the skin. So non-transdermal, non-invasive, nothing invades the skin. Again, this is a mechanical device to redirect the infrared light, just like when we shine that flashlight on that diamond crystal, the light reflects back into our eyes. Same thing here. Your infrared light bounces right off of this crystal lattice, signaling whatever X39 does as opposed to Eon. And it goes up to 4 inches deep inside of the body. These are organic, holistic, FDA-compliant Class 1 medical devices under general wellness category. We manufacture our products at FDA-registered facilities in the United States, and our facility in Ireland is registered with the Irish Medicine Board. We manufacture our products to the same standards as a medical device because that's what it is. It is a mechanical device to redirect your infrared light. And in fact, our facility in Ireland is 9001. It's ISO 9001 and ISO 13485. That is actually a quality standard, and that's per our scientist, the inventor of these patches. If anybody's interested in watching the whole video where he talks about that at great length, let me know, and we could always make this video available, provided that it's still posted on YouTube. So it's very important that just as a general wellness principle, but especially while you're on the patches, that you drink 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water. Now, if you're not sure that this is a big deal, you're thinking, oh, well, I drink a lot of water. I drink, 2 bottles of water a day, 16 ounces of water a day. Let me tell you, my friend Jim, 2 glasses of water a day is not enough. You need to be drinking 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water from the time you get up in the morning until you go to sleep. When you drink, your water matters. And drinking all your water, like in a 2-hour window out of a 24-hour period, is not advisable. Drinking your water just with your meals is probably the worst thing that you could do, because now you're diluting the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, and that's going to affect the way you metabolize your food. That is not the optimal thing. You want to be drinking from the time you get up in the morning, breaking that fast of being hydrated or having eaten anything. And what I recommend when you first wake up in the morning, that you have your hydro flask or your water bottle right next to your bed, that you've measured out your water the night before, so that from the time you get up until you go to sleep, you have to complete drinking your 50% of your weight in fluid ounces of water. So if you're 150 pounds, you're going to be drinking 75 ounces of water or more from the time you get up until you go to sleep. Okay. Now, why is this so important? Well, you may or may not know this, but if you're dehydrated, things in your body start to shrink. The first thing that shrinks is your brain. That's right. Your brain shrinks when you're dehydrated. When you're 2% dehydrated, you will feel thirsty in your mouth. You will feel parched in your mouth. You will feel the desire to have water in your mouth. Some people mistake this feeling for hunger or a craving for sugar, but it is actually the sign of you being dehydrated, and you in fact need to drink water. 2% dehydration. Some people, in addition to having a parched mouth, sometimes they have dry eyes. Some people get headaches. But the thing to note is that when you get to 8% dehydration, you're not going to believe this. You better believe it, but it's true. At 8% dehydration, just 8% dehydration, your DNA starts to unravel. I should put a picture of that DNA unraveling here. I can show it to you. If you give me a quick second, I will pop that open. And I will show you a picture of the DNA. Let me know if you can see. Here we go. This is your DNA unraveling. Here it is hydrated. Make this big. Here it's hydrated. And over here, you see that it's starting to crumble and it's starting to unravel. Pretty alarming. This is Dr. Len Horowitz's graphic that I got from him. Okay, so 8% dehydration, your DNA starts to unravel. I want you to become aware and realize and recognize that your DNA, the structure of DNA, is 92% water. That's right. Water is the primary structure holding up your DNA. And when you get 8% dehydrated, it starts to unravel and fall apart. Do you think that perhaps that's going to cause a whole bunch of conditions and symptoms and things that you don't want and pain in your body? Yeah. 10% dehydration, you lose your mind. You actually lose your mind. 12% dehydration, hard shutdown. Your entire body is dead. No one can survive 12% dehydration. So keeping hydrated is in fact extremely important, whether you choose to do the patches or not. Now, let me tell you why it's especially important. Aside from those things that I already mentioned, the other thing is when you put this patch on, and let's say you're dehydrated, or you don't want to go to the bathroom umpteen times a day and that you don't want to be inconvenienced with that. Well, guess what? Now your body is being signaled to turn on these pluripotent cells. And let's say you need a cell that needs to be replaced. Because we have damaged cells throughout our bodies. There's no such thing as a 100%, damaged cell-free human or mammal for that matter. That just does not exist. But wherever you have, let's say you have damaged cells in your heart that need to be replaced. Now your patch is going to activate your pluripotent cells and send it to your heart. And if you're dehydrated, guess what happens? Instead of it shooting down your bloodstream and going to your heart immediately, hard shutdown. It's like it hits quicksand. So what happens when you take a step in quicksand? You quickly go nowhere. To get in and out of there, easy to get in, but really difficult to get out. Can you swim in quicksand? No. The more you try to swim, the more you sink. You just don't go anywhere. So what happens in your body is that your body is producing now, because it's activating a third of your previously dormant pluripotent cells, right? So it's creating all these new cells that need to get immediately to your heart, to your liver, to your brain, to your spleen, to your lungs, to your wherever it is. Maybe if you have an injury in your leg, it'll go to your leg. If you have some sort of viral infection, it's going to go to your lungs and anywhere else that's required. And they're just going to stick together until you become hydrated. As soon as you drink water and you become hydrated, they loosen up, they become slippery again, and boom, now they can shoot down your bloodstream and get to where they need to go. Really important to keep hydrated. The other thing to note is that when you are dehydrated or unhydrated, your proteins, instead of operating properly, when you're dehydrated, they fold. I want to ask you, if you were to, from this moment forward, including watching this broadcast, instead of sitting up as you are, if you had to stand up with your head at your toes folded in half, how would that go for you? Would you be able to take a shower, go to the bathroom, do everything that you need to do while you're folded in half like that, with yourself bending down from the waist down with your head at your toes? Could you operate and function in life? Could you drive a car? Could you Jump rope, could you do everything you need to do? No. The answer, of course, is obviously no, right? Same thing is true with your proteins. When you're dehydrated, boom, they fold. When they fold, they don't work. They actually interrupt something inside our bodies that are called the Krebs cycle. So we want to make sure that we're hydrated, whether we do the patches or not. If you're just checking this out for the first time and you're just learning about how you can improve your health and your well-being, how you can not just anti-age, but reverse age, regenerate, repair, and restore your body head to toe, front to back. And you're just checking this out, not sure if this is something for you or not. Your big takeaway should be, no matter what, wow, from this point forward until I go to the grave, I'm going to drink 50% my weight in fluid ounces of water, good water at that. And I'm going to start drinking it from the moment. So many people could regulate better their weight if they were to drink water before they even went to the bathroom in the morning. You sit up in your bed, you reach over for your water that's room temperature, because that's how it's most easily absorbed, and you just drink it without rushing it at a comfortable rate until you're satisfied, not until you're full. If you're full, then that could be uncomfortable, and subconsciously it's telling your body, oh, I don't want to do this again. But if you just drink till you're satisfied, till you're satiated, you drink. It could be 4 ounces, 6 ounces, 8 ounces, 12 ounces. Everybody's different. It could be 16 ounces for some people. 16 ounces, that would be a lot for me first thing in the morning. I'm a little person. I'm only 5'1", about 102 or 3 pounds. But for a big guy who's 200, 250, 300 pounds, 16, 20 ounces first thing in the morning might be adequate. They might feel comfortable and not be full. So I cannot belabor that enough. Important to drink good quality water first thing in the morning. And you're going to do that from the time you get up until you go to sleep throughout the day, keeping yourself hydrated to keep everything well hydrated head to toe. Thing to know also is that your DNA is an energy amplifier, and it can only be an energy amplifier. Again, your DNA is 92% water. It's the primary structure that holds you up. Babies are about 82% water. They come out of that juicy womb and that amniotic sac that they were swimming in. They're born and they're about 82% water. And a 60-year-old is about 55% water. So again, very, very important to keep hydrated. So now let's talk about how often and how long are you to wear the patches. So the patches are intended for you to wear them every single day for the next 12 months. 12 hours on, 12 hours off, then you discard them because they stop working after a while because things start to break down. Again, the crystals are not absorbed into your body, but they do react. You know, they can react with your skin and they start to break down and they oxidize and they start being effective. So you're going to be wearing them for 12 hours on, 12 hours off. After 12 hours, is there any juice left in those patches? Absolutely. There's going to be some. You might wear it 13, 14 hours today because of whatever reason, doesn't matter. But really, all of our clinical studies showed the subjects always wore the patches 12 hours on, and then after 12 hours, you remove them. And now you're going to, after having 33% more energy running through your body, you now have to allow the rest, repair, and restore cycle. Just as we have a diurnal day with daylight, 12 hours from sunrise to sunset, and then you have nighttime, sunset to sunrise, our bodies, we are Bluetoothed to the sun, to the Earth's magnetic field and resonance. The sun is about 42, 43% infrared, like we are infrared light beings, right? And so we are tied to the day cycle of the Earth and the night cycle of the Earth and of the sun. And just as we are awake, we have a sleep cycle. And so you have to allow your body that rest, repair, and restore cycle. I always tell people when you get started on the patches, make sure you set an alarm to apply your patches in the morning and then apply patches. The alarm goes off. And then you have one, remove patches 12 hours later. If you don't set that alarm, you will forget. Every single one of us has forgotten, even with the alarm. You know, like I was at a gala last Saturday, and I didn't get home till like 1:30 in the morning. And I forgot to take my patches, even though I had my alarm that went off at 10:30 at night. I was still in the middle of that big gala party, dancing and having a great time. So I should have hit the pause button, or I should have hit the snooze, or, because then it would have gone off an hour later, and I could have snoozed it a couple of times, but I didn't. I just dismissed it. So I forgot. So what happens if you forget to take the patches? You turn into an alien. You turn into a pup. No, nothing like that happens. Nothing happens. Nothing bad happens. The only thing is that now on the following day, instead of my putting new sets of patches on, when I realized it, I took the patches off, and now I had to skip that day because now I have to match just as I wore that for 24 hours. Now I have to rest, repair, and restore for 24 hours. So then I had to wait till Monday morning to put my patches on. Okay, so let's talk about Dr. John Harmon. And Dr. John Harmon, when he came to us 2 years ago, and Dr. John is originally a chiropractor, later became a brain specialist, and he does a lot of things with QEEG and brain scanning and different type of brain conditions and so forth. But he found himself with a right bundle branch blockage about 2 years ago. And he was obviously very dismayed and distraught over the fact that he had this condition, and he had it confirmed by 3 cardiologists, all of which agreed and concurred that this was inoperable, that he would have to be on heart meds for the remainder of his life. And there was nothing else that they could do. And of course, he knew that this compromised the length of his lifespan would be less. And being a father of, I think, 8, and I think he has like 28 grandkids, he's like, this is not acceptable. Surely there must be something on the planet that can fix this issue. There has to be. There's always a way, right? And that's when this little pluripotent cell activation patch came into his experience to activate the cells in his body that were previously dormant, to go in and replace the damaged cells that were creating this right bundle branch blockage in his heart. Did it happen in a month or 2? No. Did it happen in a month, in 3 or 4 months? No. Did it happen in 6 or 8 months? No. Did it happen in 10 or 11 months? No. Well, in a way, I could say yes, but it wasn't completely done until the 14th month. By the 14th month, now we don't know what else he had going on in his body. We do see here that he had gray hair before. He had a lot of lines and deep wrinkles on his forehead, to where I affectionately say I could have played tic-tac-toe on his forehead, because he had 3 lines going up and down his forehead, as well as several going along horizontally along his forehead. Also had a lot of inflammation. You could see here in his eyes how his upper and lower lid, there's a good amount of inflammation. And then, of course, wrinkles around his cheeks and around his mouth and at his chin. He doesn't have a wrinkle at his chin anymore. The ones around his cheeks are lessened. His skin is more plump. It's more youthful. Lines on his forehead. I've seen him in person. The ones in his forehead, they're gone. And his hair, it's not solid dark brown. It's mostly brown, as shown in this picture. And you can see he still has sprinkles on this side, and he's got a few sprinkles here, but his hair is primarily brown, and his eyebrows filled in, and they're now brown almost all the way across on both, like in person. He's definitely looking about 15, 20 years younger. And of course, his energy is up, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing to note is that, one of the things that are activated through the application of this cell activation patches, your collagen is increased and restored. And collagen is the #1 building block protein of your body. And I want you to be aware of the fact that when you're just 25 years young, you're a little Padawan, a little grasshopper, just barely 25 years of age, already your fibroblasts start to decline when you're just a tender age of 25. I don't know about you, but when I was 25, well, I was getting married at 25. But at 25, I was barely getting used to being in an adult body. I'm a young person at 25, and who'd have known that at 25 already, your fibroblasts are starting, as a normal progression of aging, they're already starting to decline, which is one of the principal things that are responsible for the production of collagen in your body. Until you apply this cell activation patch, which activates collagen to be repaired and restored in your body to help all of the tissue, not just your skin on the outside of your body. It's a pretty important thing to know. So now let's go on to Barry. Barry is the first person I patched. Happened to be a friend of mine, fellow Dr. Joe student. We've been to many. I've been to 9 week-long events, Dr. Joe meditation retreats, and 3 advanced follow-ups. And Barry came down with COVID. And after COVID, he was suffering for 18 months with long haulers. he would have terrible insomnia, tried all sorts of sleep things to help him with that. Nothing worked. He also would wake up every day with headaches, nausea, bad, low stamina, and extreme fatigue, really physically wiped out. And so we started him on the patches last June 2022, June 23rd. He got his patches in Toronto, Canada, late afternoon. And, you know, we wanted him to sleep well. So rather than starting him in the morning, which is traditionally what we do with everybody, when you have somebody who hasn't slept for 18 months and is nauseous, has a headache, has no energy, has low stamina, has extreme fatigue, they need help immediately. And I wanted him to get a good night's sleep. So we started him that same evening. Not everybody is started in the evening. Some are. Everybody is individual. So we started him on the patches that same evening. And I told him, okay, let me know how you do tomorrow. You know, in 24 hours, I'd like to know how you slept and how you're feeling on a scale from 0 to 10, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very next day, I got this text message from him that says, hey, Lillian, just a note. Don't know if it's a placebo or if the stem cell activation patches actually work that quick or what. But I had really good sleep, a little better sleep than other nights, and I fell asleep quicker. Today, I'm just on a high. I'm ecstatic. And Gwen sees that in me. I feel really good physically when I awoke this morning. No headache, no nausea. Yeah, it's just been phenomenal day. So thank you, and I'll update you as we go along. Hope all is well. Thanks. Bye. So since then, I have had the good pleasure to patch and to help so many people who have any kind of flu you could think of, have similar signs and symptoms. Whether they tested positive for that COVID or not is kind of irrelevant. Many have been tested, others haven't. But the bottom line is that a lot of people experienced relief. And this is the big plus, the takeaway is that these are general wellness products. So whatever it is that you have going on in your body can be repaired and regenerated and restored. So you get relief from whatever negative symptoms you're having in the body, because these take care of the systems of the body. They're systemic in nature. So it takes care of balancing the different systems inside of you. So here's Kathy McCarthy, who was 62 when she started in January of 22. And you'll see that in just 7 months, she went from having a lot of fine lines and wrinkles to having none. And the big story is everyone looks at this as a first thing work, because everyone can see that from the outside. But the bigger story is that she started on these because she had 33 years of suffering with autoimmune disorder from 3 breast implants. And she was now free of all the symptoms from that. And so not only did she get the cellular repair inside of her body, but I want you to take note that in less than a year, not only was she relieved of the symptoms of not just autoimmune disorder, anything else that was affecting her, she was relieved from that, as well as from the exterior fine lines, deep lines, wrinkles, and crepey skin, because she called it crepey skin. And she mentioned that after, I think it was 4 months, 5 months, that her husband's the first one who noticed that on her torso and her arms, that she no longer had what she described as crepey skin. So what might be possible for you? You won't know until you try. So this is my story here. I'm not going to get into a lot of nitty-gritty details. You can see there's a very large laundry list of things that I was suffering with before. But I was hit by a bus just 3 blocks shy of finishing a 16-mile bike ride in 2017. And so I suffered a traumatic brain injury, a C5, C6, disc injury, neck injury, miserable, horribly painful, back injury, L1, L5, and I also had a laceration that went from my ankle to my knee on my shin bone, incredibly miserable too, right along the bone. It opened it up. And that thing took almost a year for it to close up. 7, 8 months, I still had oozing and a rash developed around it. It was a mess on top of the other pain. The neck and the back pain was unbelievable. Horrible insomnia. Through my neurochemistry, all my biology, my whole chemistry throughout my body got all really out of whack. A lot of things, tinnitus, sensitivity to light, blurry vision, you name it. I had the works. The good news is that any and all things, including I had also about 50% hair loss plus bald spots. I had a couple bald spots up here, but the big one was behind my head. That was the last one that after 5 years I still had. One above my ear and the 2 quarter-sized ones on top of my right side of my head. Those went away in the first couple years, but the last holdout, when I started the patches, I still had the bald spot in the back of my head that was the size of my palm. It was a large amount of hair that just fell out and never didn't come back until I started on the patches. Then I didn't feel anything when I first had the patch put on, surprisingly, because I'm normally very sensitive to things. But I didn't feel anything right away until between my 3rd and 4th week. I noticed that my brain processing speed, my memory, my focus was like markedly better. In the past, to learn something, I would have to write it at least 3 or 4 times. I would have to repeat it. I would have to not just read it. I would have to read it also out loud. I would have to engage multiple senses, which is very neurosomatic in nature, in order to cement that and so that I could recall it. I read one of the IceWave. I was making my way through reading all 90 studies, and I came to the IceWave study. And what struck me were the keywords in that study and the languaging of the abstract of that particular paper. And lo and behold, one of the things I thought, wow, we need to be talking about these keywords with everyone. Talked about organic nanotechnology using photobiomodulation and traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points. Those 4 keywords. And I thought, wow, we need to be languaging that, using these keywords as we talk to people. Because up until then, everyone was talking about photobiomodulation and traditional Chinese points, acupressure points. And so I thought, that's a nice collection of keywords. And then the abstract talked about the effects of the IceWave patch. Long story short, I don't want to get into too many other details, but the bottom line is this. I happened to be on a Zoom just like this, and I put that aside, assuming that I was going to have to, do 3x5 cards, highlight it, not just in 3D, but also in electronic form, yada, yada. The very next Zoom that I did, because one of the things that I lost with this accident was 100% of my short-term memory. 100%. My long-term memory was intact. My short-term memory, something happened 15 minutes ago, it basically didn't exist in my world. Something happened this morning or last night. If I saw you the night before, I had no recollection that I saw you the night before. It was really miserable. And I was unaware of my short-term memory loss for up until my 2nd year after my injuries, because I was so bogged down with, and even my neurologist didn't know that I had short-term memory loss. If he did, he never mentioned it to me, or maybe I don't recall him mentioning it to me. It's very possible. Long story short, I went from that to being able to recite almost word for word what I had just read in that IceWave research study. And so the rest is kind of history. And then all sorts of other things. Also, in the 4th month, I also had noticed that my hair was softer, silkier, and I had about 3 to 4 inches of hair growth in that previously bald spot that was entirely bald. It wasn't just a little bit of missing hair. That entire spot was bald, just like the heel of your foot. You don't have any hair there, right? Okay. So let's talk about what these patches do for you. So the mother activation patch, it's going to reset 1/3 of your genes to a younger, healthier state, regenerate cells, replacing damaged cells, restore collagen, rebuild scar tissue. It's going to replace it, whatever scar tissue you have, with your original tissue. First thing I noticed on my leg was that the bone filled in. Instead of the scar being elevated and purple and wiggly, I noticed that the bone filled in and the scar flattened, and it went from purplish and thick to flat and just brown. And later it became lighter and lighter and lighter, and it shrunk and shrunk and shrunk to where it's barely, you can still tell a little something. It's not 100%, but it's now a very faint tan. So reduces fine lines and wrinkles. You already saw that evidence in not just Kathy, but also Dr. John, as well as myself. If you take a closer look at the image of myself, I had crow's feet. I don't have them anymore. I had a little bit hooded, which I was completely oblivious that I had them, but I don't have the hooded eyelids anymore, which is kind of nice. This gives you increased energy, increased sexual libido, antioxidants, anti-aging, anti-inflammation. If you're experiencing pain, many people experience within 3 to 4 minutes of wearing this patch. And in our study where people wore the patches for 60 days, a lot of them experienced pain relief, 50 to 100% pain relief within 3 to 4 minutes. Pretty exciting. Many people like myself, we get improved hair growth. Hair growth was not measured in any of the 90 clinical studies, but I do put it on here because myself and so many of us have had improved hair growth. Some people who were bald who are no longer bald, people who had balding spots, who a lot of it has filled in, and a lot of people who had originally gray hair who now have their original hair color returned. So that's very common too. Improved deeper sounder sleep. Almost every single one of the people that I talk to that I've gotten started on these patches, almost everyone has improved sleep in the first day of wearing the patch. But you might be different. But generally speaking, just about everyone I know has the first day, wow, they definitely sleep deeper and sounder. We put these patches on recommended acupuncture points because we do have a Veritas Consilium. That's a true plan of action. It's a recommendation or a regimen using traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points to actually magnify the effects of the patches on the body. The rule of thumb I do like to give to everyone is that when you're wearing the patches, if you or someone you know, if you're looking at sharing these patches with someone, or if you find yourself with all of a sudden, maybe you didn't have pain when you started on the patches, something happened and now you have pain. Maybe you bumped your knee into a car door or something, you dropped something on your foot, whatever. Point to the pain and patch it is a great rule of thumb. Just take your patches, all 5 of the patches of the Fantastic 5. You can either circumvent, like encircling. If I had, arm pain, I could put the patches all around the arm this way, or I could put them, this is the pericardium meridian line of energy. So in my case, I have a little bump, which is almost all gone now. It's much smaller. You can probably barely see it on the camera, but a couple of weeks ago, it was pretty big. And it was causing me pain that was radiating very sharp into my palm. I put the patches on and the pain immediately went away. So I continue to put the patches on here to continue working on replacing that cartilage that's there, because that cartilage bubbled up and filled with fluid, from a little injury that I sustained a few weeks ago. So you just point to where you feel the pain and patch it. It could be right on the spot. If it's an open wound, don't put it on an open wound. Put it right next to the open wound. If you have a fracture, you're wearing a cast, then you could put it right above whatever first skin area that you have, either above or below the cast, or the ace bandage, or right below the ace bandage. You can do that as well. Okay. So now we're going to talk about, we talked about the mother. That's our foundational patch to our house. This is going to be like our bearing wall, the daughter. This patch does something entirely different. This patch provides radiation poisoning relief. It's going to increase your lean muscle mass, your bone density, muscle mass, and strength. It's going to increase energy, focus, and cardiovascular function. And it will protect you from electromagnetic frequencies of 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi radiation, TSA scanners, blue electromagnetic frequencies that are coming from the blue light toxicity that you get from LED lights. We are bombarded with LED lights. The computer screen that you're watching this on, the cell phone that you're watching this on, desktop, laptop, iPad, notebook, bar none. All of those there's blue screens, right? There's blue light toxicity you have from that. Blue light toxicity causes insulin resistance. It causes inflammation in the body. It causes the dysregulation of this little organelle inside of all of your cells called mitochondria. Mitochondria are responsible for producing the energy in your body to fuel you. When you have mitochondrial dysregulation, that's the beginning of all sorts of diseases and conditions and symptoms in the body. This is going to offset that. So this patch will also use whatever belly fat you have as an immediate source of energy supply to turn on a third of these previously dormant pluripotent cells. So that will cause a reduction in belly fat. If you're overweight, there's a possibility that because as your body's getting into homeostasis, you might lose some weight. I have had I have Barbara Hummel, who first week on the patches, she lost 7 pounds, and she had a terrible back injury. She's a branch manager at a bank, and she had so much energy after 7 days of being on the patches. She was able to go not only on a 2-hour hike, but I want you to think about this. She had fallen, had re-injured her bad back, was unable to go to work. And 24 hours after wearing the patch, she was able She was pain-free. She went to work. 7 days later, her energy was so up that she was able to go on a 2-hour hike with her husband. And so by the end of that first month, she lost 17 pounds and felt and looked much better. And she was getting all this feedback from people like, what are you doing? You look more energized. You look more youthful, da, da, da. And she felt and noticed that her skin was improving as well. And she's a beautiful woman. Anywho, there's all sorts of possibilities as you anti-age and reverse age and regenerate at a cellular level. Okay. So we're going to talk about the next 3 patches. We're talking mother patch, your bearing wall, the mother patch is your foundation. Daughter patch is like the bearing wall of the home. And now the next 3 patches, you can make believe that these next 3 patches are going to make up the walls that are going to hold up your home, which is your body, right? And so the next 3 are glutathione, carnosine, and eon. So let's talk about glutathione, carnosine, and eon. Oh, by the way, remember to drink 50% your weight and fluid ounces of water. Glutathione. These next 3 patches are the master antioxidants of the body. In medical and scientific circles, they argue back and forth whether melatonin is the most important master antioxidant of the body or is glutathione. Glutathione, as you may or may not know, is actually present in every single organ of the body, every single muscle of the body. It's present in your brain. Like I said, every organ of the body. It's responsible for good eyesight. It's responsible for neurological function. It's very tied to something called your nociceptive system, which is your ability to feel pain, which curbs your behavior. Super important. Typically, people who have neurological conditions have no or low glutathione levels. People who have autoimmune disorders or conditions or syndromes oftentimes have low glutathione levels. So this master antioxidant is extremely important in the body. And luckily, we have a patch that will signal that. It will detoxify you and boost your immune system. And if you start, let's say as an example, you started to wear your patches this morning for the first time, you put them on at 9 a.m., you have your alarm go off at 9 p.m., and it's take time to take them off and discard them. By tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., your original, nascent has to be from birth, right? But your original source of glutathione from conception, not from birth, is going to activate and take you back to anywhere from 300 to 600% higher than what you are prior to being on the patch. Because if your glutathione level was originally 555% higher than it was prior to patching, it's going to bring you up to that level to detoxify you and to give you the immune boost that you need, to provide you the antiviral protection that you need, to provide you the radio protection against DNA damage, and to improve your skin appearance, and also help promote reduce stress and relaxation. Glutathione is something that your brain will signal your liver to manufacture it. And then your liver, of course, will send it through your bloodstream to every part of the body. Very important. Very important, like I said, in pain management, anything having to do with eyesight and so many other things. In a minute, I'm going to share with you this little research study, which talks about the effectiveness on glutathione and these particular organs. So if you have an issue with any of these organs, please do listen up. So in the research study, and I literally cut and pasted this, put this in here, it says the glutathione patches worn 12 hours daily over a period of just 4 weeks produced a highly significant improvement in physiologic functional status of your pancreas, liver, gallbladder, intestines, left and right adrenals. A lot of people have adrenal fatigue, right? Left and right adrenals, your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland, and a very significant improvement in pancreas with a statistical power of at least, says here, 72%. So stated differently, all organs achieve significant cellular physiologic functional status improvement compared to a baseline with a statistical power of at least 91%. That's remarkable. 91% improvement. That's pretty incredible, pretty impressive. If you want to read this whole paper, you can find it at the end of this presentation. I will give you our educational site. Nothing to buy there. It's just purely education. It's like an online filing cabinet with all this information. All 90 clinical studies are posted there, called startx39now.com. Okay, that study is called Nanoscale Glutathione Patches Improve Organ Function. Carnosine. This master antioxidant supports and improves your cardiovascular system and all things related to heart and muscle. It improves healthy brain function, memory, focus, and brain processing time. It increases your strength, your stamina, endurance, detoxes your brain from aluminum. Super powerful to be aware that you want to be detoxing from aluminum. We have so many exposures to aluminum, it's not funny at all. We've known that aluminum is actually a neurotoxin. We've known that for about 25, 30 years, that not only is it causing cognitive decline, but it messes up with the way in which your brain functions, your ability to recall things. It jumbles things up in the brain. Really caustic, very damaging to the brain. This patch also, because it has to do with your tissue, improving your cardiovascular system, all things related to heart and muscle. If you have any kind of wounds, any kind of lesions, etc., inside or outside of the body, this is going to aid with wound restoration. Okay, very important patch. It's also good to know and become aware that your heart and your brain are two organs that are very connected and intertwined with each other. To the degree that you have a good heart, where you have good pumping action, you don't have any occlusions or backages. You know, there's two aspects of your heart. We want to look at what's inside your arterial walls so that the blood can flow. You get the oxygen as well as the electrolytes, the packet of information with nutrients, so that it can get to your brain and the other parts of the body. And then you also have the electrical conductivity of the heart. You can't have a short circuit in your heart. If you have a short circuit in your heart, then things aren't going to work properly. Things don't work properly, then the information doesn't get up to the brain, which is why if you have poor cardiovascular function, you have brain fog, you have foggy memory, poor memory recall, a compromise to your short or your long or both memory, etc., etc. So this patch is great for clearing things up inside your heart as well as your brain. Okay. I've talked in the past about aluminum and how toothpaste, up until 2014, 9 years ago, all toothpaste in the United States was in an aluminum tube. So that toothpaste is absorbing trace amounts of aluminum, which now you brush your teeth with. Although you don't swallow that toothpaste, it's sitting right there on your gums. You're absorbing it directly from your gums. It goes straight into your brain. Not so good. How many times we're on the heels of Thanksgiving and we've got Christmas right around the corner and all sorts of other high holy days, right? How many of us have not had food that was wrapped in an aluminum foil? Corn on the cob, potatoes, sweet potatoes, chicken, turkey, ham, you name it. How many of us have had pies over the holidays that were baked in tin? That anytime food makes contact with aluminum, hot or cold, it's absorbing trace amounts of that aluminum, and now you're eating that. And so that's why you have people who are stunned. They're like, oh my gosh, how is it possible that I have, in my blood work, I have this very high level, toxic level of aluminum? It's like, no wonder I have brain fog. No wonder I have these neurological conditions and so forth. Well, you're getting it inadvertently from all sorts of different places that you were unaware, including how many of us have drunk beverages, beer, water, juices, sodas out of an aluminum can. It goes on and on and on. Not to mention if you work in a car manufacturing plant where they have aluminum shavings, or a gun manufacturing plant, any place where they have different metals and so forth. So your exposure can be not just inhaled, absorbed through the skin, but also through food. This is going to unring the bell of any of that aluminum, because it will detox your brain and your body from that aluminum. That's the good news. So, oh, by the way, yes, this is the third time in this presentation, I'm reminding you to drink 50% of your weight in fluid ounces of water, which brings us to the last patch, which is the Eon patch. We did glutathione, carnosine, carne, like carne asada. Carne is the root word for carnosine, means flesh in Latin. So the easy way to remember what carnosine does: heart, brain function, anything related to flesh, muscles, okay? Eon. This patch, the Eon patch, is our master anti-inflammatory patch. This patch is also called our anti-stress, our happy patch, because it raises anti-neoplastins. It also increases the DHEA, fountain of youth hormone. Stop. DHEA is not the same thing as DHA. Okay. If there's anything you're going to do and you're going to Google after this presentation is done, I want you to Google DHEA versus DHA. By your doing that, taking that proactive measure and seeking that out, you're going to remember that there is a difference between DHEA, the fountain of youth hormone, and DHA. Okay. This particular patch increases that DHA, fountain of youth hormone, and your brain is out of balance before you get started on these patches like I was. And now as you start to wear this patch every day, day by day, and every way, your brain starts to go into balance. The left and the right hemisphere start to get into sync and into balance, which causes a calming effect because it's going to reduce your cortisol levels, your adrenals, left and right. When you have a stressful event, when you have PTSD, anxiety. I had PTSD and anxiety, showed up on my brain scan from the trauma of being hit from behind, going flying over my bike. Okay. So if you are having had a traumatic event, if you've had a stressor, like the pandemic was a stressor for a lot of people. Some people are still suffering from PTSD and anxiety from the pandemic. Others have life events and other things that have happened, maybe stressful work environment, etc. Make no mistakes. Your adrenals will shoot off cortisol. At some point, your adrenals, if it keeps on going, you get adrenal fatigue. Then you're going to have high cortisol levels and high C-reactive protein. That's what it turns into in your bloodstream. That really does not feel good in the body. This patch is going to reduce your cortisol level. It's going to reduce the C-reactive protein and bring it into balance. So that brings you a calming effect. So now you're going to have a good memory focus and you're going to have mental clarity. You're going to be alert, but calm. A lot of people, I've had some people say that they feel blissed out. Some people just feel, I had a couple, they said that they felt almost euphoric, but calm. They were so energized, but they feel very calm. It's very exciting. So this is a phenomenal patch, especially when you wear them collectively as the Fantastic Five, which is what I suggest and recommend for most people. Some people need more patches. I needed the SP6, which we're not going to get into today. This one regulates your autonomic nervous system, takes care of your hormonal system and your digestive system. My autonomic nervous system took a beating when I had that brain damage from the traumatic brain injury. So I had to get on this SP6 patch. I'm still on this patch. Actually, right now, I just ran out, so I'm waiting for my new order to come in. Phenomenal patch, really, really important patch. People who have cravings, need suppression of appetite and cravings. Maybe they crave sugar, crave salt, what have you. This patch will bring that in balance. If you don't have that issue of cravings and that's already in balance, the patches will work to take anything that you have out of balance because they're general wellness products that work on systems of the body. So then it'll bring those things into balance. Okay. So what are anti-neoplastins? Because that Eon patch increases your natural anti-neoplastins from conception. And these are peptides that are simply found in the urine and blood of normal, healthy people. And the research studies show that they might stimulate your immune system and that these peptides might also kill certain cancer cells or prevent them from growing. Okay, in a clinical setting, they're used for various cancers, high cholesterol, brain swelling due to infections like encephalitis, meningitis, HIV, AIDS, Parkinson's disease, and all sorts of other conditions. There's no limitation on the type of conditions and diseases that might cause brain swellings or these different types of infections. That clinical administration is done through something called IVIG, intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, which is done through an IV in a hospital typically, or it can be done in a clinic. I know some people now have a portable device for more severe cases that they can then take it home and then administer it at home. But that's very rare for people to have that IVIG done through a portable unit. So, oh, by the way, did you know that blue light, that's right, the screen that you're watching this broadcast on destroys DHEA, destroys the fountain of youth hormone. But guess what? You can unring that bell with these patches. So also know that blue light, in addition to destroying DHEA, like I mentioned before, this causes inflammation inside the body. It causes insulin resistance. Do you think people that have issues with their pancreas perhaps should know that? Because if you know that, now you can offset it. It's like, that doesn't mean that you're never going to be on a computer, that you're never going to be on your cell phone, that you're not going to have any LED lights in any of your surroundings. No, but now you can do something to offset it, like wearing these patches and like getting morning sunlight, which I recommend to everyone from after sunrise, before 10 a.m. in the morning, get out there unrobed and have all of your skin get that morning sun, so you have the activation of UVA and UVB light that helps set the circadian rhythms of your body and help you with offsetting some of this inflammation and getting natural vitamin A, which turns into a hormone, and natural vitamin D and D3 that turns into a hormone in the body. Okay, so this brings us to the point of what this costs, and we're going to wrap this up. We're almost done. We obviously can't charge you $1 million. Some people would pay $10 million to get their health back, because if you don't have your health, then what do you have? Now you're spending a lot of time, money, and resources to manage your health. It is very energy consuming to not be healthy and to have anything bad going on with your body. It's very, it doesn't free you up to have the energy to pursue your passion and the purpose for which you were brought forth. Now, traditional stem cells therapies by IV or by injection run anywhere from 8 to 11 grand per session. But these you can get started for the price of just a cup of coffee a day, $5 a day. For $11 a day, you can get started for 2 cups of coffee a day. You can get started on the entire Fantastic Five, okay? So I'm going to share with you our Dr. Wholesale form. You won't see this on our website. Get back to the person who referred you to this video to learn more about how, not just answer all your questions, but how you can get started so that you can get the patches as quickly as possible so that you could start to regenerate your body. But on the Dr. Wholesale side, you have to go directly to the person who referred you to this video. They're going to fill this form out, and then the gold pack is the Fantastic Five, which retails for $750. You'll see that all day long on the if you go directly to the website. But if you go to the person who referred you to this video, then they can get you're basically saving $49 a sleeve. That's a 30% savings. So now it's $100 each. You can actually bring the price down even further if you order a diamond pack, because then it brings the price down to like $2.80. It's about a 40% savings, almost 50% in some cases. So, but you have to be willing to buy 3 months, which is, again, this pack. And when you do that, you'll have 3 months of the Fantastic Five. And on top of having 3 months of the Fantastic Five, the company will actually bonus you 2 months. That's 10 sleeves, 2 months of the Fantastic Five. So you end up with 5 months of the Fantastic Five instead of 3. There is a special Christmas promo that's going on where you can get a year of the mother stem cell activation patch, and then you can get 6 months of the daughter, and then you can get 1 month of the glutathione, carnosine, and eon, and then 3 months of the neurology digestion hormone patch. That's a Christmas special that's going on until the 12th of December. So if anyone is interested in that, get back to the person who referred you to this video and they'll help you get that. If you're interested in the to get started text, you see my number at the beginning of the presentation. You'll see that it's just asking you the fields that are required to fill out this form. Okay. For more information and to learn about our 90 clinical studies or 120 patents, everyone is welcome to go to startx39now.com. And these activation patches, if you're interested in that to get started text, you can always text this number and we will send you the to get started text so that then you can get started, of course. Or if you want a private consultation pertaining to whatever your specific needs are, we can also, or to recommend what additional patches, because you might need something like IceWave, which we didn't talk about other than the study very briefly. This is the only patch we have that doesn't repair anything. This turns off pain receptors. So some of you that have more severe pain might need IceWave just to turn off your pain receptors, okay? Or energy enhancer, which we talked about very briefly also, which is just enhancing your energy. regulating your lymphatic system, and increasing your heart rate variability, which is basically making your heart more elastic. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? While we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions, just know that you can see this recording because we're broadcasting live on YouTube. You can go to damelillianwalker.com. That goes to my YouTube channel. You'll see the most recent video that will be posted. And anybody got any questions? No questions? Okay, if no one has any questions, we will let you guys go. My friends and gems, thank you very much for being here. You know how to reach me, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Telegram. Or some of you have my personal number. You can get a hold of me through my number. I'm pleased as punch to be here. And as always, make sure you like that video on my YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that you do get notified every time we upload a new video, so that people like you are notified of our most recent video. By liking that video, you help the YouTube algorithm send this out to more people who will find this type of content so that they get zero cost education and learn more about this life-saving technology. All right, my friends and gems. All right, my beautiful Carol, my other beautiful person. I don't see, I think they just called in, and that's 727 number. All right. Ciao for now, my friends and gems. Make it a great Tuesday. Bye.